Greetings and welcome back. There are many wild and varying opinions about tarot. And as I was rambling about it almost incoherently at the beginning of episode 0001, I'm taking a sort of open-minded, investigative approach. I am, familiar with cynicism, and I'm familiar with having faith, as it were. I'm somewhere in the middle. But what I am interested in is exploring how things work and whether or not my theory that I've been developing pans out and is applicable. More on that later. So, major arcana, minor arcana. The major arcana are archetypical images, and I'm sure we'll discuss those in depth as we move forward and we cast 12 cards, one for each month. The minor arcana, of course, are also archetypical characters, but they're clearly, as you become familiar with them, they're clearly of a different category or echelon. These cards of the major arcana speak to large, deep, profound, universal, cosmic themes. The minor arcana speak to the human, earthy, common sense, sort of universal in that most human beings, experience things in this direction or in these areas, and yeah, both of them, reach for universality. But anyways, there's a significance and a difference and a nuance, right? And for today's first reading of the year, I want to initiate my work with this deck to specifically sort of ground it in big picture questions addressed at the global human species wide level. As I haven't asked this deck in a really long time any questions, this card just jumped out. Which is interesting. And I caught a glimpse. I know that it's reversed. I don't know which card it is, interestingly enough. And I'm very curious. But put a pin in that. We'll come back to it. So, we're ready. I've explained away everything. Whoa, now I'm being crazy. These two also sort of... Now, setting them aside. I believe in doing that. I don't know why. I've always sort of had this intuitive hunch. So, like I said, I'm not an expert and I'm not a professional, but I'm also not completely inexperienced greenhorn that's never touched a deck, right? So, in the ways and on the subjects and themes that I may sound confident, you can trust that it's not a completely ridiculous, and incompetent sort of confidence. There may be reasons why I could be not exactly talking about the most common definition or use or interpretation, but when something really works for me, I know what it is, and even if I don't understand it, if that makes sense. Okay, let us proceed. First, I want to connect to the deck, thank it, express my gratitude for it, and welcome it, invite it to work with me, and share with it now that I'm asking it questions not for me personally as an individual, although I'm sure I'll find resonances, right? That's the way these things sort of work. But, and I'll address the deck directly at times, folks, and if that sounds crazy to you, tough. I'll explain why, eventually, but not right this hot second. So, dear deck, thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here with me today to answer some questions and assist my understanding. Please be aware that the questions I'm asking on behalf of the human species and asking from a global perspective as a collective, not for myself as an individual. Thank you kindly. Om Shanti Medicante Om Namaste. I've shuffled it enough, I think. I have literally not laid hands on these cards in over a year. I know that January 1st of 2020, I was not reading my cards, which is why I didn't do Tarot Journal all effing year. Anyways, I think I kind of tinkered around with maybe doing it in the middle of the year somewhere, but I gave up because it just didn't feel right. Okay. So I set aside those 3 cards that I referenced that jumped. And I'm now going to do 4 quarters, or I'm going to lay out a spread that's going to be 3 cards in all 4 corners of the square reading mat that I have. And I'll explain it in a hot second. So for me, this represents. Oh yeah, things are popping. This represents the 4 quarters of the calendar year, right? Today is January 1st, first day of the year, first day of the first quarter. And I'm going to read. I'm going to take a picture of this first, so that you all can see what I laid out. And, oh, darn it. Of course I turned off this device. Everything works exactly and according to plan. Isn't that great when that happens? My humble gratitude for you being here. Thank you, guys. And now we'll see if we fixed the previous technical problem with the meditation-y music that I picked from freemusicarchive.org. Lovely. I wish I had some of that playing earlier. I'm getting ready to take a picture. Sorry for the lag. The show will get less chunky than this. I may even edit this sooner rather than later. I'll get around taking a picture for it. No, I want to take a picture. I need to take the picture before I turn anything over. Or else things start to get really silly and out of sequence. What we will be doing is really only sort of looking at the first 3 months. And then I'm going to probably go off the air and take a break. And I may come back to do segments for the rest of the months, or I may only catalog it and wait. I'm debating that still in the back of my head. There we go. My device is now on and operational and ready to take a photograph so that you'll see whenever you see this, whenever I post these pictures. Sort of the top edge of the picture is my iPad where I'm broadcasting live. Hi, Spreckerland. Then there is the spread, 4 corners. In the middle is the remaining major arcana from which I pulled. Over on the other side is, over off to the right, 3 cards I set aside down at the bottom, and then the minor arcana sitting, resting, not to be used today, on top of their pouch that they usually live in. In fact, I'll probably put the major arcana back there on top of them. Now I want to keep them separate, so it'll be above. Crossways. I don't know what's best. Leave them in the middle. That's what my brain says. Okay. So, boring, tedious, waste of your time so far? Hopefully not. Here we go. We're ready to go. I don't portend or pretend. I'm not making any claims of foreseeing any futures or psychically predicting any predictions. right? I'll get into my discussion of my theory about how I think, if tarot works and is a thing, how I think it does so, as we work through our cards. And of course, there's backlog episodes where I've already talked about it in depth, which some of you may have heard while they were up and available on Sprecher.com, but some of you may have not. So each of these cards will be a major arcana, and if they're not, it'll be a funky, hinky-dory surprise. And we'll talk about them and what they represent as archetypes. And I find that awareness and understanding builds as one sort of reveals more and more cards and reviews the definition and or meaning and or possible interpretations of each card in relationship to all other cards. So, until we get to the 12th card, talking about like a final understanding is next to impossible. But we shall discuss. Without further ado, please join me in understanding what archetype the first month, this month that we are in, January, this deck thinks. Oh, I never restated the question, did I? I just dealt and started. I'm hands on the card, ready to flip. Dear deck, speaking from the point of view of the entire human species, the global collective, which major arcana card do you think we as a species should consider as we work through each month of 2021? Kind of an open way to ask the question. If you've got critique, positive criticism, constructive criticism, questions and or whatever, of course, the usual, come on down to my social media town applies. Okay. I asked the question, the card's already laid out. It doesn't matter because the quantum entanglement works in all directions of the timeline until the Schrodinger's paradox is resolved, and that means the face of the card is seen. And that's not a complete explanation of my thesis whatsoever. That's just a tiny little nugget that I include Schrodinger's paradox in it. We'll come back and talk about that more. I asked Gaia for the highest possible guidance. May this make sense? Drum roll, please. January's card is the Page of Wands. Are pages major arcana, or did I screw that up? I really, really wanted this to be all just major arcana. The page is, by traditional standards, is royalty. The royalty are all minor arcana. Okay, I screwed this up big time. Now, dilemma. Bum, bum, bum. I did this live. There may or may not be some people listening. Hi, people, if you're listening. And I'm a greenhorn novice, right? Like, what do? I just laid out 12 cards with intention. I screwed up, and it's major arcana with apparently royalty cards mixed in. Part of me wants to not look at it at all, take it all back, reshuffle, reorganize, resort, like kill this episode, kill the episode before this, and start completely over, right? Like, take it down, just forget it happened, chalk it up to like a bad, rough draft. Another part of me wants to just power through to see what interesting, if slightly unexpected and maybe a little bit off kilter messaging comes through potentially. Even though there might be minor arcana cards here of even non-royalty type, because, to be honest with you, because I did it live and because I didn't do it ahead of time, I wasn't just vigilant as I could have been. Dilemma, what to do. This is an interesting 50-50. Well, let's see what the Page of Wands says. Just for shits and giggles. I really wanted each month to be a major Arcana interpretation archetype reading. According to, and this is the first book I reached for, because I remembered for a fact that in their primary listing of the Raider Whitesmith their interpretations of the Raider Whitesmith cards, they've got everything lined up in the Major Arcana first and the Minor Arcana second, whereas some books don't. But this one did, and it's the first book I kind of stumbled across. See, this is a suit card. I don't want to even read it. I don't want to even get into it. Right, this is totally wrong. This feels wrong. Well, this part feels okay. I'll read the bit that feels okay. The pages, meaning generally all the pages from each of the suits, very often symbolize beginnings, study, reflection, the qualities of the young student. That is deeply apropos. Am I not about to undergo a deep attempt to really do this, the pseudo-scholarly, edutainmently bogus, podcasty, gimmicky work, if I may be a little self-critical of it as I describe it, of sharing with you guys my thoughts as a podcast show, as I, quote, train myself in traditional tarot reading, additionally, the sort of variants in the oracle deck department, and then my own sort of custom mixed method of reading. Because the wands symbolize beginning, the Page of Wands especially indicates the start of projects, in particular, an announcement to the world and to ourselves that we are ready to begin either a, quote, project, parentheses, this can refer to a relationship as well as practical plans, or a new phase of life. Well, hot diggity damn, if that doesn't just ping good and solid, good and relevant, and not abstractly wild. I did open with, oh my god, this doesn't work. Let me share with you why. It was talking about enjoying itself for itself, which confused me in the opening sentence. Youthful, and then the queen, or a mature queen. And I'm like, what? See, and I'm thinking, what is this going to do? I'm going to drag a queen into this interpretation. But this author likes to make associations, especially within suits, which are actually insightful. And then I saw this, which made me go, nope, this is all wrong. Physically, pages refer to children. And I don't have any children. I don't intend to create any children anytime soon. I have no plan, there's an absence of children. There are no children here in my space. So interesting and weird. But that was just physically that particular reference and or association. The next bit made a lot of sense. The next paragraph. Symbolizing beginnings they indicate the beginnings of projects, announcements to the world, and to ourselves. And this is exactly what this is. Literally, this episode is me forcing myself to no longer avoid just doing the tarot journal segments, because I was always a little intimidated by it. I kept saying I needed a master plan in order to initiate it. I also wanted it to go as a, starting New Year's Day and run 300 and blah-de-blah, however many fucking days there are in a year. 69? 76? 30, 34? 350? I don't remember. 352? How many days are there in your calendar? They change in every fucking dimension. Because every little lump of coal that you all sit on sits a little bit wiggly different from every sun, just a wee bit in every fractal holographic branch of probability waveform functions. But I digress. This card has hit so well that we're going to stick with it. For this episode, I'm having a bit of a aha moment and realization. We're going to power through for the remaining time. Keep this, I think the last episode was 45 minutes, right? We're going to keep this under 45 minutes. And I'm just going to reveal the cards and give my honest to goodness first impressions. Having set aside my bizarro interest in like ditching this reading and reshuffling everything and starting over. I may curiously find myself doing that again in the not too distant future. But for now, the deck has proven that I know some folks. I have for many years, had the occasional tarot enthusiast acquaintance and or friend. And so I have on many occasions throughout my adult life heard the phrase, which I've received both sort of absent-mindedly and with doubt and with cynicism and with enthusiasm and respect too. The cards never lie. We may not understand, but the cards never lie. And it's interesting, and it's really weird. Which makes me think of a couple of interesting different stories and a few rationalizations. But we'll put pins, big fat red pins, up on the board. We'll come back and talk about that another time. The flaw, I will say this. When someone takes a reading and the reading is wrong, the flaw is in their minds and in their choices in how they interpret the symbols, right? I'm not saying that the symbols are absolute or have some sort of inherent cosmological, meaningful wisdom inherent. What I'm saying is something else entirely, and that's that I'll give you my theory in one sentence. Oracle cards, oracle symbolic systems seem to functionally work the same way Rorschach blots seem to functionally work. In terms, like, they give you something to look at, something to interpret, something to puzzle over, something to consider and contemplate that then activates deeper processes, deeper procedures, deeper mechanisms in the human mind that we usually sort of neglect and or don't utilize very effectively. And therefore, you're really just consulting yourself. And, don't forget, in my understanding of the world, you yourself are divinity, being the ego presence that you experience. Not in a sort of gods on earth kind of way, but in a sort of like everything is the will of God coming into fruition. Everything is the energy and the mind and the consciousness of God manifesting and then re-uptaking it through consciousness. So why shouldn't this interesting art help us understand our minds a little better? And synchronicities of relevance and meaning. Having relevance. Relevance? Being relevant. Relevance. Anyways, pronunciation of words aside, let's barrel on through, shall we? That was fun and wild. And interesting. Okay, so January, beginnings. Youthful beginnings, the beginnings of projects, announcements to the world. Hello, world. I'm announcing to you, if you didn't already know, that I have an interest in tarot and a pipe dreamy aspirational goal of, perhaps becoming my own branded professional tarot reader in my retirement to thrive on the income of facilitating others in understanding themselves using these tools under my own particular quirky theory. And there, boom, the announcement's gone out into the world. The first card was pretty interestingly accurate, despite my my own weird, quirky mistake that I caught and felt weird about. Sometimes the universe just forces things to happen, and they are serendipitous. The second card is to contemplate in association to the second month of the calendar year, February. And it is King of Swords. Yeah, not another major not a major arcana. Suit royal card. How bizarre and hilarious if I get a lot of those. All right, as I was not going to look them up. My first impression is that, something will make sense. I like swords. Swords are about the mind and decisiveness and thinking and making choices, if I'm not mistaken. And they usually bring pretty interesting insight that helps sort of cut through anything that may be blocking. So, and the King of Swords is an auspicious card because he's top of the stack in terms of royalty. But we shall proceed on to March. The card for March is the Wheel of Fortune, which is, of course, not a trademark infringement, but the actual card, Wheel of Fortune. I'm intrigued to see how that interpretation bears out, but one of the typical common first blush things that can be said when the Wheel of Fortune is drawn is that especially if you're asking for a month, and that's that month's card, then fortune will go, hopefully, presumably, auspiciously up. It's not in reversal. And the Wheel of Fortune is usually associated with good fortune when drawn in its native upright position. I don't want to draw too much into it or draw too much out of it, draw too many conclusions, but there you go. That's quarter one. Quarter two, April, we will be contemplating and discussing the Queen of Pentacles. Fascinating. Pentacles is a symbol of earth, a symbol of structure, associated with money. Also, not a bad symbol to get. Each individual pentacle card has its different, nuanced reading when it comes to the question of income or money flow or fortunes. But following the Wheel of Fortune, which generally, and a much broader perspective as a major arcana card, indicates hopefully good fortune, the Queen of Pentacles has some interesting and sophisticated and mature thing to contribute or add for that month in terms of what is going on with material fortunes, right, in general. Oh, I also said that I wasn't going to take this as a personal reading. And this, my dear friends, if I may pause for a hot second, given the Page of Wands, given the aha, I'm having an aha moment inside of various aha moments. Given my mistake, my misshuffling, and the fact that I didn't draw under the Rubicon that I sort of under the circle that I cast for myself, although I didn't really literally cast a circle. I spoke this Rubicon which said I wanted to read for the world, for the species, and it be only major arcana cards. Duh, this reading is for me, and with perhaps some broad associations for the world, but it's my mistake. I fucked it up, and some cards jumped out. Duh. So I'm gonna hustle through the rest of these, and then in part 3, we're gonna do this again. I know that sounds crazy, and either you love it or you hate it. This isn't what a professional reading would be like if you came to, my virtual reading platform, which I do not have yet, or if you were to come to my office, which I do not have yet. So don't interpret it that way. Don't take it that way. This is me literally exploring experimentally and gleaning whatever insight I can at all levels, and sharing it with you performatively for entertainment's sake. So, if you're curious, I know I am. Let's see what else this sort of mistaken personalized reading from me has got to say to me. So, and then I'll have to come back to it to give a really deep. I'm going to go offline and look up every card, and then I'll decide whether I want to share about everything. But I'll definitely give you like a highlights of what I think this means. Now that I've chosen to understand it, now that the insight has been given to me, that indeed this will make more sense as a personal reading than as a species-wide, global, major archetypical, reading. Okay, but curiously, the next card for May is the Tower. The Tower is often given a bit of a bad vibe rep, but it's a good card. It means, transformation through radical change and a bit of disruption. 2020, I don't know what other professional readers may have pulled as the singular card for 2020, which was going to be my final step, was after reading from these, I was going to draw like a final major arcana to see what a whole thing would be. But we're resetting. All right. Not dragging our feet. The next month, Hermit. So June, we get the Hermit. Isolation and or spiritual practice, seeking of wisdom are the kinds of things that come to mind to me right off the top of my head. So July is interesting, curiouser. We've got the Empress in reversal. And we'll pause here for a hot second. And reversals are a controversial topic, from what I understand, from what I gather. Maybe not like globally controversial, but amongst tarot enthusiasts, the really sort of invested ones, the ones we might lovingly call real tarot nerds, have a world-defining opinion about, for themselves, about reversals. And I find that I seem to be kind of an outlier, in my opinion, of reversals. Some people refuse to deal with it, and they just flip this card right side up, and just deal with the card right side up, and don't acknowledge reversal interpretations in any way, shape, or form. Others are a little intimidated by them or worried about them, but they are intrigued and respect reversal interpretations and seek out authors who invest in reversal interpretations, especially since the original Rider Waite Smiths are so interestingly sparse, to be generous, to be kind. Me, myself, and I, personally, prefer, prefer, as an interpreter, as an amateur, aspiring to professional standing tarot consultant, I choose to interpret reversals as opportunities to do spiritual work, to upright the card, avoiding whatever dodgy, scary, ominous interpretation of its reversal may portend, or foretell, or warn about, and then being able to access the interesting, standout, positive meanings and or tangible things from the upright interpretation. So I thought I'd share with you that. We'll have to find out what that means in nuanced detail about the Empress. But the following month is the Fool reversed. Fascinating. What does that mean to me? I don't know. I have a lot of interesting personal associations with the Fool. And we could talk about it for weeks and weeks on end, really. But, moving on. September, Ace of Cups. I love me the aces, generally speaking. They are, for those who aren't super familiar, in the Rider-Waite-Smith, they are larger than life, godlike hands, anonymous, no known divinity identified, usually associated with whatever the suit is associated with, reaching out from within a cloud, giving the blessing and the gift and the power and the sort of the manifest, tangible token of the symbol, in which case this is the cups. Always interesting. Where are we? October next? January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September. That was September. October. Boom. Sorry, I get a little fuzzy in the middle there. October, the High Priestess, sitting as she is holding the Torah, or the Tarot, or the Torah, the Tortat, whatever it is she's holding. She's an interesting one. October. November, curious that this didn't land on October. November, we get death. Death is not bad, death is not evil, death is not even necessarily death. And we'll have to have a fun and exciting discussion about that card for November. And then, December, the Lovers. Huh! Fascinating. Well, if this is a personal reading, looking at it, it's about me and my mistakes and my flaws, especially as it relates to reading tarot, right? Because this episode 001 has been wonky and wobbly and hiccup riddled, and that's fine. I really just wanted to make sure that I didn't pass up the opportunity, that I didn't just blow by the first week or 3 of the year not even doing it. Right? Because that's what happened to me last year. So, Page of Wands made a lot of sense. King of Swords, Wheel of Fortune. As a progression, I guess it kind of makes sense to me. Swords, I think, if I'm not mistaken, traditionally associated with air, intellect, and those sorts of faculties. And the Wheel of Fortune we've already talked about, right? And then the rest of the year, it looks like I'm going to get established or achieve some sort of level of establishment by Queen of Pentacles. Queen of Pentacles, the queens are all strong, comfort-giving, solid, independent. They don't need no man. Auspicious and sort of like nurturing cards, to make some really big broad stroke generalizations there, in my own words, right? Queens, I always feel, are a little bit of like, aha, we've sort of made it and have achieved, established in whatever field or regard or thematic project or stuff that is associated with the symbol involved. The Tower is disruption. The Hermit is self-discipline, education, looking within. The Empress reversed and the Fool reversed, I haven't the foggiest. The Ace of Cups is sort of like a reward. Like, okay, you got it. You got there. The High Priestess is like recognition and empowerment, as far as my first blush of understanding. Death is sort of like closing a chapter, achieving a sort of final transformation out of a thing. It's sort of like not a happy ending, but an ending with transformation, right? It's not necessarily death. And the Lovers is the Lovers. Romance, the beginning of things, commitment, teamwork, that sort of stuff. So, I mean, there's some obvious things that we could drop interpretationally. I'm going to leave it there, though, because that wasn't what this whole episode was supposed to be about. Curiously, the symbols and the decks kind of bitch smacked me into taking it. Right, here we go. The 3 cards that fell out, and I don't remember what, I think the Page of Swords was first. Page of Swords reversed, the King of Cups upright, and the, we'll put these over here. Hold on a second, what's over here? In the middle. Now this makes sense. The Page of Swords reversed, the King of Cups upright, and the World. These are the cards that jumped out of the deck while I shuffled. And I have previously tinkered with either reading those right away, looking them up and before I even get to whatever I was doing and shuffling for, and or saving them to the end like I just did just now. Not even going to comment on them, but they sort of kind of make sense, I guess. Not really. I don't know what to say. It's weird. And now, I guess, to fulfill the matrix, the spread that I guess I was going to do, I'm going to pull a card that represents the entire year. And I didn't really have a plan for how to pull that card. So, for a hot second, I thought I was just going to pull the card that had been sitting on top after having done all the previous work and laid out those things. But now I'm shuffling again because I wanted to connect physically with the deck. Okay, here we go. Setting cards aside. This is for the whole year. The Emperor. Not a bad card to get. Major Arcana. Number 4 in the sequence. Interesting synergies. The Emperor sits on a stone or concrete throne in which there are, I want to say it's carved stone, and I don't think they imagined archetypes sitting on poured concrete. The artist, Ms. Smith, right? Smith was Raider Wyatt were the publishers, the author, quote unquote, of the book, and the publisher of the cards, and Smith was the artist. Ram's heads. This is what's hitting me. The Ram's head. I'm a Capricorn, so there's that. And I'm going to leave things there dangling. Take a picture of this so I can then do the offline work of reading and recording offline my commentary for future review and discussion live on the air here on the Incorrigible Mr. Zeppo's Tarot Journal and Cartomancy Radio Reading Hour. Thank you for tuning in, folks. I think what I will probably do in terms of the human species question and the all Major Arcana meta archetype reading, I think I'm going to do is take a big old break, rest my voice, do the due diligence of thanking the deck for this reading for me personally, and resorting, reshuffling, and extracting just the Major Arcana deck cards. And then maybe perhaps later this evening, before the first day of the new year is out for me on Pacific Standard Time, I'm going to redraw and do it. And maybe I won't do it live, but maybe I'll man up and step up and do it live also. Because ultimately, in the long run, it doesn't matter. No one really listens to the show super live, like in the instant that I'm actually doing it. But it makes a difference to me sort of in my mind. At any rate, namaste, friends. Thank you for tuning in. This show will either make lots of sense to you or no sense at all. This particular segment of my show will either make lots of sense to you or no particular sense at all. But we will see whether or not I consistently do it throughout the whole year. As I've pointed out, that was the plan for last year, and I failed miserably. apparently, if the Emperor is the final card representing the entire year for my own personal journey, one could very well interpret that as a sort of sign of completion and establishment and some mastery. I have been talking in terms of building an empire. Along with the lovers and some of the other symbols, it sort of does seem to make sense to me in my head about the issues and questions that I have dealt with for myself personally as an individual. But perhaps you will join me in the not too distant future to look at and discuss the cards that come up when I ask the question again for the human species from a collective perspective. 12 major Arcana cards for the 12 months of 2021. Take 2 coming up later this evening, I do believe. Until next time, friends, may you always find time for self-care, self-love, self-healing, self-rejuvenation, and your own, experimental exploration of your spiritual path. It doesn't need to be oriented around tarot and oracle decks. And as we continue to explore this, you'll see why I'm choosing to do that and why I find it interesting and fascinating and worth my time. Or you won't, and maybe I won't, and I'll stop. Who knows? But as always, friends, thank you kindly. May peace, love, and grooviness be with you. May New Year's Day be a relaxed and groovy day for you, whether you listen to this episode now or in the future. I hope you had a wonderful New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, holiday or holy day, and that you connected with yourself and with spirit and energies and all that fun hippy-dippy mojo bullshit. Because either it's crazy and it's nonsense and it's doing no one any harm, or it's real and there's some there and it's doing those who invest in it some good. At any rate, may peace, love, and grooviness blossom in your heart.